And welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 500,000 subscribers. Let's get there, hopefully before the end of the year, but we are doing it. We are doing great thanks to you. So hit subscribe, watch, comment, and share, because this stupidity, we have to make it stop. Now that the longest shutdown in American history is actually finally over, or so it appears, most people walked away with some, pretty obvious lessons, like the value of SNAP benefits, or let's say the importance of paying federal jobs like air traffic controllers. But Caroline Levitt, she learned something entirely different, something novel, something unique. She says the shutdown proved that we don't need the Department of Education at all. On Political Beatdown, my co-host Ben Meiselas and I, we break down how absurd that is and why this administration literally seems to take actual joy in hurting millions and millions of Americans, especially children. Play the clip.
The Democrats' reckless 43-day government shutdown did manage to do one valuable thing. It proved that America does not need a federal Department of Education. During the longest shutdown in history, the Department of Education furloughed 90% of its staff, and America's education system was not impacted whatsoever. Schools stayed fully open across the country. Students attended class and received normal in-person instruction, and our wonderful teachers received their paychecks uninterrupted. The Democrats' government shutdown made it painfully obvious that American families do not need the Department of Education.
Oh, time. I have a point. Point of order, Mr. Ben.
What's the point of order?
Point of order is, well, I understand that teachers were still teaching, classes were still going on. Well, government was actually still functioning, despite the fact that that all of Congress was basically home on a 8-week furlough. Does that mean we get rid of Congress too?
Well, and it also, there's a few aspects of it. Number one, that. Number two, the cruelty that what you took out of the government shutdown is to get rid of the Department of Education. But three, the stupidity. The Department of Education does not deal with the way schools operate on a day-to-day basis within states. Schools and the education system are local and state functions. Where the federal government comes in, where the Department of Education comes in, is to fill the gaps in areas that the states can't do. Oftentimes dealing with students who are disabled students and helping them, addressing discrimination in schools, addressing funding initiatives that focus on federal priorities, science and tech and things, engineering and things like that. The federal government provides student aid, student loans, and tries to bolster the state systems. But it also just reflects, when she makes a statement like that, well, it was operating. We realize, well, the thing is, the parts that the federal government help out in, lunches, right? Free lunches and trying to help starving and food desert communities. That's where the federal government helps. And, I guess the fourth point that I'll make just about that clip, and I spoke to Randy Weingarten, the head of the American Federation of Teachers. I said, doesn't it seem like every week this regime comes out with another announcement about disbanding the Department of Education? Like, it just feels like at least every
crystal clear that they were going to do that a long time ago.
Every week they do it, and it's just like a sick, cruel torture. And then fifth point, Cohen, then I'll throw it back. Let's keep going. 6th point, 7th point, 223 trillion points. But doesn't it feel like the Trump regime enjoys attacking kids? Kids, disabled people, marginalized groups, and especially kids, right? When they got rid of Medicaid programs, It's really impacting kids,
Snaps.
starving kids, education. There is a hatred towards kids. And you know what? When you put kids in an education system and kids get smart and they have to coexist with other kids and you have to be diverse and inclusive and gain knowledge, that's a threat to authoritarian regime. Sorry, Cohen.
Yeah, don't be sorry. Look, the whole claim by Caroline Levitt, we really can't hold her solely accountable for the stupidity that emanates from that gaping anus under her nose. It's not her fault. If you notice, and Ben or Jeremy, if you could find any clip of Caroline Levitt grabbing a whole stack of papers, basically reading from it, this is all prepared horse shit from Russell Vaught, from Stephen Pee Wee German Miller, right? That's what this is. And all she's doing is reading off of a script. Why she's doing it? Well, she's in the fucking cult. Let's be honest. And she's not going to do anything to jeopardize her position there in the cult, no matter how stupid and ridiculous and insane it is. But that's all that she's doing. It's not like she's answering for Donald Trump. Nobody does that. And yes, she is an adult. I get that too. But every single press secretary answers questions on behalf of the administration, on behalf of the president, that is in line with the administration and the president's, ideas. And she's not answering them personally. She's basically reading off of a script. In fact, her job is not even necessary. Very soon, AI will actually have all of these prepared, scripted answers. So you could have an AI robot ask a question to receive back an AI response, because that's really what we're having here. And while I blame her for being an asshole and for perpetuating these lies, the ones who I actually find the most despicable is actually the press idiots that go there to the press room, to the briefing room, expecting that they're going to get an honest answer to anything. What they should do is turn around and say, you know what, question here, Carolyn. Yes, Michael. Every day we come here, every day we ask you questions, every day you lie to us. Why should we even continue to come here? I would love to see somebody throw that there. I know that you're wearing a cross around your neck, but the shit that you spew is so antithetical to what Jesus would do. Maybe you should put something else around your neck, like maybe an albatross, something like that. Why is there nobody there to basically make her look as stupid as she is? And that way, maybe she does quit. Maybe she does, find some God in her life where the attack on a female, the attack on children, the attack on the disabled, the attack on the poor, the attack on the elderly is no longer acceptable to this, cross-wearing bullshit artist.
See, I think my pushback in our debate, I think you have it a little inverted in the sense that, to me, the problem with the press and the corporate news establishment in general is that they're so hungry for access and money that they have given away all values and principles for which we used to hold the press at a high standard. And that's why you have the Midas Touch Network and other independent media emerging. So for me, the reason why the press doesn't do that is they're just looking for access. They got to do what they perceive as good for clicks, and they're corporate overlords who are now often billionaires with other business interests using the media as their plaything in order to gain access to their other revenue streams. And the media people you see in the room, they're just kind of stooges and they're pawns in this game. See, Caroline Levitt, though, that job that she's doing, I put more of the onus on her because she sought it. She knows what she's doing. And while those ideas may not originate with her, she's not the originator, but by being the propagator of it, it's more than simply repeating it like a robot or an AI.
But isn't that really what she's doing, Ben? Can't you make the analogy that take like somebody who is looking for shelter because it's snowing out, there's a blizzard, and you see a building, you open up the door, you go into it, but there's no roof. That's what I see with Caroline Levitt.
The better example to me is Osama bin Laden comes up with the plan for 9/11, and then there are the hijackers, and I'll bring this to Saudi Arabia because of the crown prince being at the White House. They carry it out. They're clearly the terrorists taking the orders from somebody. But would you go and say, well, they didn't know what they were doing. They were just, you could have replaced them with anybody. Or another example being someone hatches the plan for the murder and then goes and tells the hit person to do the killing. The person who ultimately pulls the trigger, you may be able to find others, but what Caroline Levitt is doing, I think, is pulling the trigger in a way that divides our country. And she does seem to do it with a delight and a glee and a smile.
That smile really gets to me too, brother.
She does, because the things she's saying, it's so evil that the reaction to it would be like if you saw somebody bleeding out on the street and you walked over to them and you just smiled. And it's the same feeling that you get watching her get off and enjoy it as you would when you see somebody laughing at the suffering of others, because what she's doing is enjoying, it seems, the torture and the pain.
But it's a whole group of them, Ben.
Of course.
I mean, okay, so you've heard me even on this show, like last week when I compared what's his name to Smiling Bob, right? The other idiot, Hassett. All right. On top of that, another smiling idiot is when Stephen Miller gets on and he starts talking about they should all be incarcerated. They should all be beaten for absolutely turning it and saying that the president is not allowed to order an illegal strike and hit on someone. I mean, they are all sadists. They are, and they are cruel. Their entire agenda is literally cruel, illegal, unconstitutional, and it's why I turn around and say all the time, help us to continue to grow this community so big that we don't have to worry, because I'm a worrier, right? You know, I remember when I would take an exam, even if I studied my ass off and I knew that I did well on it, but I was always nervous until I got the grade back. No different than I'm nervous now about what's going to transpire in 2026. Because one thing that Trump is extremely good at is making himself into the victim, right? And my fear is that when you have, like, as I wrote in my Substack of today, you have people like Hakeem Jeffries or a Chuck Schumer that are patting themselves on the back for the release of the Epstein files, but you don't hold your own to that same hypocrisy. My fear is that he's going to ride a wave of victimization again, and that we're not going to be successful in the 2026 midterms, right? And that will ultimately be the end of our democratic republic, because he will do what he's doing now, but on steroids, because he knows right now, poll after poll is showing that they are losing in the 2026 midterms. And if that happens, at least we will have our tripartite system of government to keep the executive branch in check. Right now, we don't have that. Hey everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.